Hello. Hello, this is Reverend Bonnie. Welcome to Spiritual Center Spokane. We still have 2 minutes before 6 p.m. and we start at 6. And so let's just take a few moments together of waiting for the rest of our group to come on and just be quiet and place our attention upon our hearts. So, welcome to Spiritual Center Spokane. My name is Reverend Bonnie, and I have a lot of notes for my talk tonight. So, if my eyes divert and go off the page, that is why. If you find this video, this talk of value to you, I invite you to please make mention of it in the notes, as well as go to www.spiritualcenterspokane.org in order to sign up for our electronic newsletter and read some blog posts and become familiar with our community here in Spokane. And what I wanna make a note of is all of the classes that were scheduled to be taught by me at the end of this month have been moved back 2 weeks because of the fires in California and those in California who want to participate. So, I will be sending out notices and information to that effect, as well as how you can register for the upcoming 2 classes. One is on rethinking our health, so that if you have health or physical challenges, this course or this gathering might be of interest to you. It's 6 weeks long. And the other is on being sane in the midst of chaos. We have been promised that our political and cultural structures are going to begin to be torn down and flipped upside down. And in that, there can be some grieving and some concern. And so there's a second group for that. And all of that information will be on the website under events, as well as I will bring it forward next Tuesday and it'll be posted on our Facebook page, Spiritual Center Spokane, as well. So this past week, my attention, consciousness, and prayers have really been directed towards the fires in Los Angeles. And my assumption is, since you're attracted to this work and you've committed to a spiritual journey on this planet, that your attention and your prayers have also gone in that same direction. And I want to spend some time tonight in my talk talking about catastrophes, talking about trauma, talking about big picture, little picture, how we live our lives in the midst of something as significant as the fires that have happened in Los Angeles. So, I want to start by talking about the big picture. And those of you who have worked with me for a while know that I love to talk about Byron Katie's comment in the big picture that when something happens, we ask the question, so we know our lane. We ask the question, is this God's? Is this mine? Or is this yours or somebody else's? Okay, so is it God's? Is it mine? Or is it somebody else's? And I have been traveling. I just returned from Mazatlan, thus I have a little tan. And while I was there, I was in conversation a lot with people who aren't on the spiritual path, consciously on the spiritual path. And that's not who I hang around with. So it was real interesting to me to listen to conversations that took place. And what I noticed was that the majority of people not on a spiritual path spend their time and their energy talking about other people's lives and how they think other people ought to live them. So I was in one conversation where a couple of siblings talked about their brother and how they thought he ought to do X, Y, and Z in order to live his life the way that they think he ought to live it. And then after the LA fires happened, it was interesting to be in conversation with people who thought they knew where LA people ought to move to, and that they decided that people in LA needed to move and that they knew the places where they needed to go. And it was so interesting to me to be in conversations with people who aren't talking about an expanded life, but instead are meddling in other people's lives. And what I saw very clearly, and I took a note of this, my awareness around this is, first of all, to me, it felt like a big waste of energy. If I'm getting together with you and talking about how somebody else ought to live their life, then you and I aren't having a conversation about life in us and through us and between us. We are giving our energy literally away to a conversation with someone who's not even there. And it also, I noticed, depleted my energy because there's no life in it. There's no life in an opinion. It isn't alive, it isn't growing, it isn't fascinating, it isn't powerful. It is an opinion based upon someone's value system. So if oh, this is funny. I moved into my neighborhood 3 years ago, and my next door neighbor knows everything about everyone's life. She's a Gladys Kravitz. And she came over and she pointed to a house kitty corner from me, and she told me that that the couple in there was living together in sin, which of course told me a lot about her. And then she proceeded to say, "But he put a ring on it, so hopefully they will make marriage within the next year. Hopefully, they will become husband and wife and not just live together." And I think the energy in that conversation is non-existent. Like, it feels like my life energy is not being productive and expanded and creative in the midst of that kind of conversation. So, again, in the big picture, know your lane. A catastrophe happened in LA. So the God's business is the catastrophe, meaning that none of us will ever know what really happened. We can know factors that contributed, but we'll never really know everything that made this a thing. That's God's business in my perspective. Then the second thing is knowing what is somebody else's business. And then lastly, what is mine? And we'll talk about that in a little bit. So, I was aware it was a waste of my energy. It creates a sense of energetic depletion, and that increases fatigue in me. And it diminishes the creativity of the person who has the opinion. In other words, at any moment, you can be creating and expanding or you can be pontificating. And so, what I saw very clearly is I do not want to give my energy to conversations that are third party conversations without the third party present. So, let's go back to talking again about the big picture. Now, the big picture is that you and I are multidimensional beings, that we are a field of consciousness that has a body that lives in that field. And in our bodies, our beings, our field, we host our ancestors' lineage. We host our own lives. And for people who believe in past lives, that means multiple lives. And for sure, this life that we have right now. And I would say we host the presence of God within us, but the reality is that you and I are hosted by the presence of God. We live, move, and have our being in that divine presence from that divine presence. There's only one substance out of which all life is created. And so we live in what we call a field of God's good. In Christianity, they may call it the Trinity. They say Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. Those are the multi dimensions. In my language, in our language, we say spirit, mind, and body. So our capital S self, our beingness, contains the infinite that I call God, the mind, which is a repository of information, it is a recorder, it is a processor, and we have our physical body temples. So, as beings who are infinite, we came to this planet to do and to experience physical form. So, you and I, at some point, took form, and it's like, yippee, as the only substance that is, as the one life that is, we're in form so that God, the infinite divine love, can touch other people, can embrace other people, can create things, can smell, can have all of our senses. We get the privilege of having a sensory experience while we're here on planet Earth. So, when someone that we love goes through pain, or when groups of people in the world go through significant pain, the God in us, the wholeness in us, the infinite in us accesses that as well because we realize we're all in this together. So, we, not living in Los Angeles, can support those in Los Angeles going through extreme change through our working consciousness, through our thoughts, and through our actions. And so, as a spiritual center, we are going to tonight contribute through our spiritual practice and self talk, and know that if we are moved by spirit to take action, we will. So I was in a hotel room in Mazatlan when I learned about the Pacific Palisades fire, and there were two distinctly different news channels in this other country. You can imagine what they are. They each one represents a political party, and they disseminated the information in a different way. One tried to their best to give a balanced perspective, and the other one gave an update and ongoing updates filled with blame and shaming the city officials. Where I want to start in 2025 in my consciousness and in our collective consciousness as the center is to clean up our consciousness when we hold life in our minds and we hold life through our spirit. In spirit, there is no place for shame and blame. In fact, spirit doesn't even know what shame and blame is. Spirit just knows love, peace, joy. There's qualities of spirit that is known through people. There are high vibrating qualities, and blaming and shaming aren't those. So far tonight, what I've said as we begin 2025, let's give up having opinions on how other people ought to live their lives. Let's give up gossip and replace it with creativity. And let's clean up our own consciousness and stop blaming and shaming other people. When we are centered in ourselves, we are aware that everyone on this planet is doing the very best they know how, and that we are learning and growing together. And so the blame and the shame was so violent, it felt like, when I was watching it. It almost felt like I could see the damage going out into the field through this behavior. So, God response is grace, God response is mercy, God response is love, God response is creativity. In God, there is no shaming and there is no blaming. So, as spiritual beings now, we are taught to show up and to be love and to know love. Now, I have a colleague who has a spiritual center down in LA. His name is Dr. James Mellon, and I'm on his email list. And he sent this email out right after the fires took place. And his center has three different God qualities as their guiding light. So, it's like love everyone, forgive everything, and there's a third thing, and I would need to look it up. I don't know what it is. But they have been living now for the last 5 or 6 or 7 or 8 years, maybe even longer, from out of the premise that love is the basis for all restoration and all healing. And this is a letter he sent out that I want to share with you because it's really beautiful. He says, to all of us as we move through this day and the next, first and most important, we remember that love is fueling everything and that this is never a question. The universe is always expressing from that wellspring of infinite forward momentum. That said, love, concern, compassion, grief, and caring are all at the center of what we're experiencing right now with the fires and the devastation. People losing their homes, losing loved ones, and the challenges that surround this experience bring us all into a sharper focus of who we are and what we can do for one another as we each experience our own journey through this particular time of our lives. Please know that your spiritual family is here for you in whatever way you need it to be. We're a loving community who's always there for one another. And I would say to each one of you as well that that's true with us. And Murphy is our chaplain and is available for praying with folks. And I have a long prayer list. You could put information in the chat or contact me, and I will do the same for you. So we are in every way willing to go the extra mile with whatever you may need. Knowing that life is always unfolding perfectly is always at the center of my experience. But looking at what the unfoldment appears to be isn't always easy. So he's talking about coming from a place of love, no matter what the circumstances look like. Last night, Kevin, who's his husband, last night, Kevin and I watched as a home just a few blocks from us went up in flames and collapsed. We were on evacuation alert and we stayed present to the situation. Friends in the Hollywood Hills were evacuating to other friends' homes. Friends in Pasadena lost their homes. And the question I kept asking was, why is this happening? I wouldn't begin to answer that question for either a physical or a metaphysical understanding. This is not the time for those types of questions. In fact, the only thing in my heart is how to help those in need and to keep us all grounded in our philosophy of capital L, love, capital O, only, love only. So if you can, put your attention, your mind, your heart, and your soul to work on loving this whole experience into the next level of expression. Know that everyone is doing their very best to get this whole thing under control, and there is something inherent in all of it that is moving us to a higher ground. So we bless the firefighters, we bless the water, we bless the aviation experts, the houses and the trees, all of nature, the sky, the wind, and each and every person affected by this challenging time. So that's the question. The question is love, is keeping our heart open. And the question is, how do we show up as the love that we are in the midst of destruction? And I asked this of spirit in my morning conversations, and I was led when I asked the question of how do I demonstrate love, I was led to contact my friends in LA, to stay in contact with them every single day, either by text or phone call, and see how they're doing, and to let them know that my house is available to them if they need a refuge. So that's what I was led and guided to do at this point. Um, so we're gonna talk tonight and bring into mind pictures of Los Angeles from a place of seeds of renewal. And I'm going to open my heart and invite the Holy Spirit in to use me as a place where the presence of love itself, of God, can show up. And because of that, LA residents are fortified. So as you and I live in the field, so does everyone and everything. So as I go into that place in consciousness, I can gift, I can extend God through me. I can be a space where it can show up and clean and clear so that others can be held as they go through this. So I'm also keenly aware. I learned this once in a really profound way. And I'll share that with you sometime. It's really beautiful. But I'm keenly aware that in the midst of all of this are what I'll call the forgotten people. People who don't know that they're loved, people who don't have someone looking out for them. And so these are the people that I will bring into prayer specifically so that they can receive a blessing from someone they never met and will never meet. I won't know these people, but it doesn't matter. So as we enter into our meditation tonight, we will do so in part for Los Angeles. Reverend Michael Beckwith often says, we do meditation for those who can't right now. So you and I are going to go into meditation for ourselves, but also for those who are doing the doingness in LA right now and don't have the opportunity to stop and pause and be awake and aware of the potentiality that exists in the field. So I also want to point out that for the last 10 years, um, big minds have said that our culture was deconstructing in order to reconstruct, that all of our major systems, like the banks, our schools, our places of worship, our places we work, that all of them were changing forms and systems to meet the new unfolding. And so I find it interesting that our second largest, most creative city in our country is undergoing a reconstruction. And so, as spiritual people outside of that physical space, we have the option and the opportunity to hold space as light workers and lovers of the divine so that those who are in it can shift through it more beautifully. No one anticipated this. And I also want to use this as we do the work in consciousness tonight as a metaphor for the discomfort that lives in many of our lives right now from the displacement that we've gone through that feels like parts of our lives have been burnt down. Whether it's the loss of a job, whether it's a divorce, a relationship that has shifted, a death, each of us go through times in our lives where in the human field, we experience a need for dependency on spirit through others to tend and care for us because we aren't able. So, the way I see really significant change is first of all, there's a death or a destruction of the old, and along with that can come a period of darkness and grief. That's followed by hope of a new that was even better than the old. And then there's a step of construction and labor for a rebuild. And then there's the new stabilization of what is. So nothing in form lasts forever. Someday this house that I am in won't exist. Someday my body temple won't exist. Nothing in form lasts forever. That's part of the deal when you and I showed up. Ricky Byers Beckwith once said, or Ricky Byers once said, we didn't come here to stay. So all of us are on borrowed time. All of us are here to experience life in physical form until we aren't any longer. And so there was a big shift in our country with physical form this last week. And a lot of people are experiencing it. And I have no idea how that is done without a regular spiritual practice and an open heart. Whoosh. So this year, be really, really, really good to yourself. Our mandate is to tend to ourselves, to make sure we're eating healthy, we're getting the exercise we need, we're praying and meditating, we are comforting ourselves in love, with love, from love, and we are our own best friend. And if you can't be your own best friend, you may want to make an appointment with me or with Gay or with a spiritual practitioner or with a therapist, because we've come to a point in our own unfoldment and with what's going on in the world that what will sustain us is our tending to the spirit within us and our own physical, emotional, and spiritual needs. So let's meditate together. And thank you for listening for such a long period of time. So let's close our eyes and let's access that white light of consciousness that's right in the middle of our foreheads. And let's just place our attention there and allow ourselves to witness through our attention that white light growing. And now let's place our attention upon our heart. aware that the light in consciousness is still on, and breathing in and through our heart. And place our attention upon our feet that ground this energy. And allow your attention to be on all three places. The open, bright mind light, the generous, overflowing heart, and the grounded feet. And just allow this energy to flood our field. And this is one of the ways we tend to our spirit is we get quiet and we open portals within our body temple and we allow them to nurture us energetically. And now, as we enter into the details of our guided meditation, we are not entering with the energy to fix, to change, to transform, to make anything happen. We are allowing the energy from the bright light of consciousness, the open heartedness, and the groundedness. We're allowing that trio of energy, body, mind, and spirit, to do the heavy lifting if there's any to be done. This is called witness consciousness. We are bringing into our field an experience to witness where it's almost like holding a baby, where we're not changing the baby in any way. We're gently holding and allowing the love within us to ooze forward. And since this love is not our own individual love and it's eternal and infinite, as we tap into it, there's no limitation or loss or giving up of anything, for that energy flow itself is infinite. So let's bring into our field a picture that we have seen of any of the fire experience down in Los Angeles. And remember in James' letter, he said, our spiritual practice is to love it all. So we're just bringing in a picture of the roaring fires of the land after the fire, and we're just standing witness to it in consciousness. Remember to breathe. Keep your light on and your heart open. And now bring into your field a picture of the after fire, what we would call the burn or the devastation. And place your attention upon the earth, Mother Earth, the land. Again, we're not fixing anything. We're keeping our heart open and our mind light on. And we're sitting with the energy of the land. And if you notice any tears, just let them flow. And if your breathing feels constricted, allow yourself to breathe more deeply. This is an advanced spiritual practice. So we just be present to the land. And now place your attention on a tree or a bush, some foliage that has been burnt. And now let's place our attention upon the wind, the air, and just the recognition that Mother Nature has this amazing way of cleaning and clearing and reconstructing. So, right now, there might be toxic fumes in the air. Right now, it might be sooty and dirty. And there will be a time that it's clear. And what a great metaphor for you and I that there are times in our lives when we have scorched earth and the environment around us feels toxic and dirty until it lifts. There's something in us that uplifts as well. And let's look at the sky. Let's go up really, really, really high, way out into the universe. So far out that this fire can almost not be seen. And now let's bring our attention to the people, to the animals who are displaced. We don't need to know who they are. Our divine intelligence within knows. We don't need to know where they're physically located. The divine intelligence within us knows. But let's hold them in consciousness. And repeat after me. Right where you are, God is. Right where you are, all of your needs are met. And we don't need to know how, we just know in consciousness that right where you are, all your needs are met. The clothes you need are provided, the water you need is available, the food your body desires, the place to sleep, all of your needs are met. And let's feel that for ourselves, if there's any part of us that has gone through a major shift that Whether we can see it or not, we know that all of our needs are met. Repeat after me. I know for you a miracle today. I know for you a miracle today. Repeat after me. I stand with you in consciousness and love for your physical, emotional, and mental well being. I stand with you in love for your physical, emotional, and spiritual well being. And for all the people who don't know that they are loved, I invite the energy from my unlimited heart field that I call God to embrace you and to hold you. For all of you who don't feel loved, I invite the energy from my unlimited heart field that I call God to embrace you and to hold you. In the field, you matter. And I just consciously breathe deeper, magnifying the light and the open heartedness and the grounding, being a space and a place where love shows up. And in the field, there is no distance. In the field, there is no time. And so I know that right where these displaced people are, love is happening. Love is happening. To Earth, whether we know it, known or unknown, we bring that forward in consciousness and say to our ancestral realm that you also matter and mattered. And for any past life experiences, for our current life experience, anywhere that we have unhealed harm, we say to ourselves, you matter. And for anyone in LA, and for anyone in our ancestral realm, and for our own consciousness, we ask for a miracle. They are plentiful, they are always present, and we ask that that wholeness be revealed. Now I'm going to Om 3 times, and I invite you to Om with me, or I invite you just to receive these Oms. And then we'll be in silence a few moments, and then we'll close in prayer.
And as we meditate, remember to breathe. And now let us close in prayer. We begin with the remembrance that there's but one life, one God, one presence. God only, God the all. And that this presence took form as this planet Earth, as everything in physical form, including you and including me. And so all of the qualities that exist in God, by definition, exist within you and within me. And so the prayer tonight is to express more of that God from inside outside, from inside outwardly. My prayer
is that I trust this divine presence knows what it's doing, so I keep my hands and my voice out of meddling where it doesn't belong. That I let go of any temporary ideas as being the capital T truth. I let go of what I don't understand, and I live in the grace of that. I recommit to living from and with spirit, knowing that I am led to do what is mine to do. And I claim tonight that I can hear the voice of spirit within me, or recognize it, see it, or know it, that I know what is mine to do in regard to the LA fires, in regard to my daily life, that I follow the guidance of divine spirit. I speak my word that my discomfort, the discomfort I feel in the midst of change, might be converted into usable energy, and that I may be a space where divine love has an outlet to live through. And as I say this for myself, I also speak it for anyone who can hear my voice and agrees that this too is their prayer. And I close with a grateful heart, an open mind, and a belief in always unfolding good. And so it is. Amen. Well, thank you for being here tonight. Again, if you're interested in Spiritual Center Spokane, our website is www.spiritualcenterspokane.org. There you'll see the events on our events page. We have a blog. If you enjoyed tonight, and that's a weird word to say, but if you were satisfied or you got value out of tonight, please make mention on YouTube below, subscribe, tell your friends, and the upcoming classes that have been moved back 2 weeks, you will receive information through our electronic newsletter or on the website. In the meantime, please know that you are both divine love itself in physical form, and you are loved by me and those who see the divine love that you are. May your week be spectacular. Blessings.